My task is introducing our guest tonight. So when I first moved to Philly, um, about 16 years ago now, actually, uh, I found it to be pretty inhospitable for someone who was looking to work in the darkroom. And so when I came up with the idea to start something that catered to like people who were interested in darkroom photography, our guest tonight, Rick Wright, was one of the first people I turned to. And he's been a friend of Halide from the very beginning, very supportive. Not only is he an instructor, like I mentioned, he's teaching two of our upcoming workshops in the next few months, but he's also been integral to developing our camera lending library, which is something that's available to our darkroom members. And he's an artist in his own right. So tonight we're going to hear from him, not necessarily about his teaching or camera lending library organization, but we're going to hear him talk about his own work, his current projects, and his approach to image making. So without further ado,
Okay. Thanks, Dale. Hello, everybody. I saw a lot of familiar names coming in, so it's a pleasure to be here. And thank Dale, thanks for the great intro, and thanks Halide for everything you guys do. I've been there like last time, a few weeks, several times a week, and it's really thriving, and it's a really welcoming community there. So it's really great. It's really great to see what's going on there, the energy and the upswell, the upswell of participation. I also wanted to say, if you get interested in any of those classes that I'm teaching coming up, they really you just have to be a beginner or just comfortable in the dark room. A lot of people get intimidated when they see the description of the classes, but it's for everyone. I am very embracing. We'll get you up to speed, and it's really kind of a very participatory collegial environment, and I think you'll enjoy any of the three classes, the specific classes coming up. So yeah, let's dive in. I'll share my screen. I'll bring up my slideshow, and we'll get started. Okay, so I even made a splashy start screen for the Halide project for tonight, so that's fun. Maybe we'll get some more use out of it. Um, Probably needs a little definition. I've been working on this series for about 6 months, I'd say. Its gestation is about 4 or 5 years ago during the pandemic. Hey, everybody was home. So I started playing with a set of little bricks, which I'll explain. And that's where a lot of this project's driven from. But the conceptual idea, and I think it's going to be important to cling to that or hold that in your mind as we go through this talk. I think I'm basically going to be half process, half aesthetic, like a little bit of a blend, maybe making a lot of jokes at my own expense, but keeping it light. But we're going to concentrate on those two sides of the artistic equation: technique, method, process. How do I make these things? And then aesthetic, concept, and why, the why part of it. What's the emotional drive, the content. So just in the title alone, that's why I pause here. The Lost Designs of a Paper Architect. A paper architect is an architect who designs but never builds. So it's already conceptual. It's a conceptual idea, like a professor or a intellectual, a thinker, a philosopher. Have a lot of ideas about architecture, but never actually get to build them. So the lost design part of it is I was imagining an architect that may have lived in the late 1800s who at the dawn of steel, the dawn of new materials, right on the horizon, presaged or designed all of the modern movements that came after him. And these drawings perished in a folder somewhere and decayed, and nobody ever got to see them. None of the buildings were built. That's the conceptual framework here, is that Yeah, these are lost drawings. It's one all coming from one person, one man, one woman. The paper architect could be, anybody. So that's the underpinning. Um, I'll move forward to this slide here, and as I warned Dale, this is my joke slide, sort of. Um, I went to a lecture probably, oh God, 30 years ago by a fellow named Robert Ryman. Some of you may know he's sort of a minimalist painter who did white on white paintings. And Robert brought one slide for the whole talk. It was an hour and a half talk, and I thought, could I pull that off? Could I just show this one slide and walk us through my whole project? But anyway, he did an hour and a half on one slide, and at the end of his whole talk, he told us that that wasn't actually the painting that he was talking about. So it's a little bit of a nutty professor conceptual performative thing that he was doing. What you see in this slide, and we'll start here, is what's called a Soma cube. It's a toy. It's a child's toy, and it is seven individual pieces, unique pieces of attached cubes that all come together into one larger 3 by 3 by 3 cube. This is my starting premise for the architect who had one of these cubes, say in 1890, and started designing just with that as his only design object. So you have to think pandemic. I'm home. I'm making, I'm trying to be creative, and I pulled out this block set, and I started building from my memory famous buildings. I was an architectural student for 48 seconds when I was in college. I've shot architecture for the last 15 years. It's very much in my bloodstream. So yeah, the Bauhaus, modernism, brutalism, all the various different periods of architecture are already in my head. So I have a kind of a pre-programmed insight a little bit on the project that I undertook. Pieces do come together fully. I felt this looks like Rockefeller Plaza, maybe shot from overhead. And then I did a little conversion. This is all with just an iPhone, just playing around. Made it a little more abstract, a little more interesting, something like a bird's eye view from an airplane. Um, I started to give them names. This one called the Slotnick Pavilion. Imagined it to be in New York City. I gave the architect a name, although I've abandoned that since. I don't think the architect should be named. Um, Moving on, I'll do a few of these like what I call sketches or the process of the sketch. Also, I know Dale mentioned that we'll do some questions after. So store them up. Yeah, so I'm really eager to hear the questions about the process, concepts, etc. So just tumbling out the pieces, you can see there's seven. They all do different things. A little L, a little like near plus sign. Some of them curve, some look like an S. Really, really rudimentary forms. And I had to break them apart, put them together, but then I also had to give myself a map for how to put them back together. This one here, I reminded me kind of like of a newspaper factory, like a paper mill. So this one got called Jolly Rock Daily Star Building in Kansas, as though it was designed to be built, and again, never got there. Never got there, and then the drawing got filed away. So these for me were just the beginnings of the idea, sketches with an iPhone. I'll do one more. Frank Lloyd Wright. This is the design tumbled apart, but when you all put it back together, it kind of looks a lot like falling water. At least that was the idea for me. These sort of buttressed or flying pavilions that would come over the water and tumble down the landscape, very much like the building in Pittsburgh. And then again in black and white takes on it gets a little bit chewier and a little bit more abstract as we use black and white and monochrome. And but Dale, I'm so used to like having conversations as I talk. So if you see anything like comes up in the chat that's pertinent, Dale, you could definitely, hey, interrupt me, and if I can stop there, it can be as Oh, edifying and helpful always if that comes up.
Yeah. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions that they don't want to hold off till the
Yeah.
at the
If
end,
it's
like, yeah, put them in the chat and then I'll relay them.
Mhm. Yeah, I appreciate that. It'd be tip of the spear, topical moment, then fire away.
I mean,
Um,
I can heckle you if it makes you feel more comfortable.
yeah, nice. Yeah, so just yeah, break in if there is any thoughts there. I can't go much farther. I got to get the a little bit of the philosophy out of the way. This, of course, is Walter Gropius, the Bauhaus. This is, I think, Dessau, which is the second iteration of the Bauhaus. But the Bauhaus, for all of us here, most everybody know, it was early 20th century, late teens through the early 30s. Design, idea of philosophy about building, function, simplicity, efficiency, form following function. All of these sort of big generations of like these real conceptual frameworks for making a very human architecture, a very functional architecture, incorporating is the high-minded ideas of integrating all arts into it. And the Bauhaus, if it's famous for anything, it's famous for how much influence it had radiating outwards from its origins. So Gropius was at the helm for quite a while. It's a little home that he had made. I want to say it's Lincoln, but yeah, Lincoln House in Massachusetts. This is like 1930s, 1939, I think. And this was resonating with me. I've studied this architecture. I had this brick set, so it's starting to really percolate, come to the surface. This is, of course, Mies van der Rohe, who took over the school in the last few years, I think early 30s, 1930, 31 to 33. Um, and so this is a home he did, and I think this is in Indiana. Am I right? Oh, no, it's in Illinois. There we go. I gotta check, take my glasses off to see. Yeah, the Farnsworth House in Illinois. You can go see all of these homes, all these structures, but I give these photos out to give you a sense of where I'm coming from when I'm going to work as the architect we're talking about. So, uh, I went out and bought a bunch of them. I didn't just say I'm going to do this in wood, so I bought multicolored ones, all white Soma cubes, giant red Soma cube, multiple wood ones. I kind of went a little crazy on eBay. Probably got about 6 or 8 of these sets. Mainly, I kind of settled down on 2 sets in the end, but I just threw out a wide net in terms of what I was trying to get in terms of toys. And I think that's probably an important part of this too, is how much joy and fun I had in the play of making these. So here is the World Nations building in Helsinki in wood back during the pandemic. And then, well, here's the recreation and kind of like these ice cube, or sugar cube style. Uh, Very different aesthetic, very different look, same architecture, almost the very same angle and everything else, but starting to give to me more and more a sense of a drawing or an impression of the building that you might make while designing. Any no questions yet? If I going forward, I'm plowing in. I'm plowing through. So the next question, I got my toys. I'm starting to play around more. I'm starting to design some of my own. This is kind of based on a roughly United Nations building, kinda. But I'm starting to design my own buildings. So I'm thinking, what camera should I use to start to really render these? I thought iPhone for a while, and I thought I wanted more control. This is actually a friend of mine and colleague, former student Scott McClellan's ground glass back of his 4x5 camera. I snuck under the hood. Apologies, Scott. I did get his approval, his permission, by the way. Snuck under the hood and looked at what he was looking at, which is an IM Pay building in Society Hill. It's one of the towers in Society Hill Towers. And this image sort of lingered in my head, and I was like, I do architectural work, 35 millimeter on perspective control lenses. I also do landscape and architecture in a 4 by 5 film camera. It was a logical idea to go to do that. Floating around in my head also are again tons of architecture. This one's up. I think this is in Montreal in the 60s. Yeah, it's called, by Moshe Safdie, and it's I guess you could say a form of brutalist architecture, but I love the transparency and forms here. So these ideas are in my head. A lot of pieces of architecture that I've known. Oh, go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I
wait,
saw your hand.
there's a comment and question in the chat. So I'm gonna
Uh-oh. All
ask
right, I'm
you when
ready.
you talk.
I'm
Okay, so
ready.
It comes from Jasper,
Okay.
who has a name that's suspiciously last name that's suspiciously like your own. And
All
Jasper
right.
says there's been a trend for a few years of modernized plazas and fast food restraints that might be restaurants that lack personality in order to save costs. From
That's
your
easy.
architecture history knowledge, do you see this trend going away, or are we cooked with future commercial designs?
I'm gonna I don't want to be a pessimist, but I'm going to share some of those beliefs there. And thanks for the question. Let's go this way. Let's just go with what's here and what's inspirational. But yeah, if you're trying to lay down 30 new businesses, you're going to make a cookie cutter version that's the easiest to put together. But within that aesthetic, you can still make beautiful decisions, even if it is a repetition, right? Even though the form must repeat and be identical, you can make that. And I have seen that even in malls, where detailing on a door or a sense of lighting, things like that, can begin to soften that and compensate for that. But yeah, that's the best answer I got for you. Okay, so this is this housing complex. This was meant to be multi-use, not only for people to live in and dwell in, but it was meant to be stores and places to shop and little tiny restaurants and cafes. In Montreal, it effectively just became lodging in the end. So anyway, I had a studio camera. It's a Sinar. Uh, all of the wheels and the whirligigs and all that stuff, which will kind of start to make sense. That I wanted something with a lot of movements, so that I could place the focus and the accuracy and really get a highly descriptive negative finished. Because I was thinking it could kind of look like a really sharp, accurate drawing. I should be using a tool, a camera that can do that on the negative itself, that can be actually performed to create that sense of accuracy. So this is my impression of what we just saw here, Softy's work. I called this the dataless habitat. And this is me starting to use the red object Soma cube, which I really started to favor. Um, this is that same object through a red filter on the ground glass, ready to be photographed. And I give this picture because I'm working with black and white photography, black and white negative, black and white medium, putting color filters on the front of the lens in black and white will change the shape and the expression of the values, especially in the case of a red or a blue or a green primary color things. If you put a red filter and you photograph a red object, the object becomes white. It almost becomes like porcelain. If you put the opposite colors on, something like a light blue or even a green, it will actually deepen and darken that red color. It may look like obsidian. So I began to play around with that, the plasticity of being able to change the values. And please don't read this, anybody, but this is my cheat sheet. All the photographers, the geeky people just leaned in really close on this one, but this is all the effectively the stop compensations I needed when I put all the various different filters on, so I don't have to recalculate and rethink it every time. It's automatic, and then I put it into the calculation. Um, so this is what happens. This is red on red filter on a red object. It becomes quite white. This is a simulation. So this is me goofing around in an iPhone after the fact, shooting the ground glass just to see what the picture looked like. All right, another great reason for using we're going to get to the drawings. We're getting there. We're getting there. We need to do all the prelim stuff. Another awesome reason to use the 4 by 5 camera and why it made sense is well, this is the Fourth National Bank of Milford, New York, by the way. Shout out to anybody who knows Milford, New York, near Oneonta and Cooperstown in New York. Um, Here it is on the table with the 4 by 5 camera shooting straight at it. But you'll notice that we're at an angle to the object, but I'm starting to also angle the front element of the 4 by 5 camera while the back element stays square. Why would anyone want to do that? So in the next frame, you'll see why. This lovely thing that happens with 4 or 5 cameras or view cameras where you can, if you can get the plane of the object, the plane of the lens board, and the backboard to all meet at this imaginary point way over here. Sometimes it's closer, sometimes it's farther away. The plane and everything else will be in like rippingly sharp, accurate focus. Even at like f2.8, f4, f5.6, doesn't matter. It just becomes a completely sharp frontal object. That's what I wanted, and I wanted the opposite control, which is to say, if I wanted to throw it out of focus or tip out the back or the front or do anything, I could change the personality and the sensation of how the architecture is getting rendered. So I include that one. I like that slide. So here I am at work, pouring myself into it. I got the camera. I'm doing like this is a huge softbox up behind us. Oftentimes, I'm using like grids or barn doors or little sheets of white plastic to bounce light, um, and it's all tripped by strobes. That's the main power supply. Initially, I thought I'd use warm light, but I needed the speed because I needed really high f-stops for good depth of field, sharpness, and accuracy throughout. All right, so that's that camera hanging out above. This is what the camera's seeing again. I'll try to move along. Oh, we have like another 15, 20 minutes, right, Dale? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. So I think I'm on a good schedule here. I can't tell you. I have to pause for a second. Um, there's something about if for those of you who've worked with ground glass, either in a like a type 120 film inside a Rolleiflex or Yashica twin lens, like a twin lens reflex, or 4 by 5 or 5.7 or 8 by 10. It's kind of a when you're in here, it's sort of a religious moment. It's a spiritual place. And when you're working this intimately with an object, with a portrait, with whatever you're photographing, it has a way of concentrating what you're doing. I guess that's it. And that was another reason for the 4 by 5. It's like it's not a casual business here. In fact, the I wish I had a photo. There's a thing that I have to pull over my head, goggles, and then there's a big bag bellows in front of my goggles where I peer in, and it's like this entire universe inside. And as my hand, I'm doing this with my hands because my hands have to come around and I have to know where all the buttons are to unlock and then make changes to the camera because my face is in here. I can't see any of that. So over time, you get this sort of fluidity and symbiotic. It's a symbiotic relationship you develop with the camera. It's all natural. It takes a little while, but it's once it's there, it's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure. So this is the ground glass flipped and back and reoriented correctly, turned black and white. This is a negative produced. I'm going to zoom in on that. So again, what I'm after here is just like ultimate sharpness, ultimate accuracy, ultimate focus, all these things. Sometimes I let the back fall out because that's a reality. I was using a 150 lens, so not everything can be in, and that sometimes works. So I work on all of that, and then I needed what is the print going to look like? So now we're finally at that place. So all of the stuff I've done up until now has just been digital manipulation, scanning the digital file and kind of doing little experiments. So I thought, oh, I think ultimately I wanted to do this in an analog way. So that is to, shoot with 4x5, develop a negative, and then either contact print that negative or scan and produce something bigger and then contact that larger piece like on Pictorico. This is a cyanotype of the Jolly Rock daily newspaper in Kansas. I liked it. I didn't love it. Um, Here's another. This camera is actually 6.5 feet in the air for this shot, looking down on the top of the Slotnick Pavilion, the sculpture, and that made this image here. So it's yet another cyanotype. I don't know if I loved it, right? So I liked it, but and the blue to me was a thought about, oh, it's architecture. So architecture is blue. Our blueprints, it has at least the connectivity that way visually. So what I try, so it's going to be the same building again here. Yeah, there's the Jolly Rock building. I thought, what would it look like if I did like a synthetic graphite drawing? And that is this one. And this really started to unlock for me. It was getting really close conceptually, visually, let's say, visually to what I really wanted to get. A feeling of something like a architectural rendering, a drawing. So I did a number. I did, oh, I don't know, 7, 8, 10, 12 of these.
Wait,
That's a slot.
Rick,
Yeah, yeah.
what is a synthetic graphite drawing?
Okay, so good question. Um, this, as you can see, you can see the 4x5 mark. So this is a scan of a negative brought into my computer. So it's 4 inch by 5 inch negative, scanned and now in computer. It's a little crazy, but there's a thing called trace edges. There's a filter in Photoshop which will go and find basically all of the hard lines or anything inside the picture. What it also did in for whoever's asking there is it sort of traced the silver grain. It also traced the silver grain. So this is kind of very organic, stochastic look to the grain. Even though you look at these lines, they look very drawn, like they were done with a mechanical pencil and like with a ruler. The grain was just fantastic. You can't really get that just by adding grain. It doesn't look quite as natural as this. So there was that. So that's what that is. You also get weird kind of artifacts. You see these like ripple lines down here. I didn't love that stuff. And that's an artifact of the digital breakup as it's trying to deal with a continuous tone area. It makes it look like it's waves of water coming in on the edge of the beach. Um, I don't know if that's helpful. So I added a blue color as well. That's good. Yeah. So I added a little blue color again, back to the idea of a blueprint. This is where I thought I was going to be. I actually submitted and got a couple of these into a couple shows as these blue sort of synthetic grain shots, all done on computer. No AI, but just like the use of filters. This is the Slotnick Pavilion. Again, what is this one? Not the Kunst Institute, but yes, it is the Kunst Institute in Bonn. That one's for you, Andreas, if you're out there. So this is very much like, it looks like you did it with pen and ink. Uh, but it's still not really where I want to be, but I was feeling like I was inching in closer and closer to the idea. This is the Takashi Tower where am I? Osaka? Yeah, Osaka. Takashi Tower in Osaka. This is very much like, at least in basic form, Frank Lloyd Wright's Usonian home. He worked with these sort of very simple block planes. Yeah, there's articulation to what Frank Lloyd did, but the basic form. what sometimes just be two, three, or four interacting planes in the architecture. And part of their elegance and is their simplicity. All right, then here's our Fourth National Bank again. That red one we saw before. Again, just for kicks, this is probably an orange or red filter, which made a kind of a middle gray rendering into like almost like bright white, because of the effect that the red filter had on the tones. Okay, now, Dale, how am I doing? Good? Yeah. Okay,
You're
we're
doing
good.
awesome.
Okay. So I got talking to an architect, a friend of mine, and he said it was super common. This is like one of those retrocon things, or like I validate my project after I get new information. But he said it was really common in the late 1800s, early 1900s to see charcoal drawings, just like this one here. That is to say, smeared and like wiped away areas, crisp line, using either vine charcoal or different kind of charcoal tools. And I was thrilled to hear that, and I started to really dig around. I found this one. Online it is hard to find authors of work, so I apologize on the rendering of Frank Rick Wright again, falling water with no attribution. But I found this drawing. I said that's kind of what I want to get in the analog process, if I could get there. That's exactly where I want it to be. So now I'm really in the spirit of an architect of the late 1800s. This is how they drew. This is how they explained their project. This is what they presented to a client. This is what you got. And this is sometimes what survives. Um, and so this was the first one that I fell in love with. And the process I used was a lith development process. And the irony about that is I was doing lith development in my own classes over at Fleischer Art Memorial. As a student there, Ed Keir, many, many years ago, started the lith process in my classes. And a woman named Maddie picked up that thread, and many, many of my students all were into it. And I was happy to have it, but I hadn't really done much with it. And I had a conversation with Maddie, and she said, "You should try such and such papers. They kind of look like charcoal drawings when they come out of the litchem." And it was a true gift. And I tried it. This is a very old Kodak paper, out of date, fogged, probably water damaged, and it also does this, which is complete surprise. You don't know what you're getting every time. All right, let's go forward. This is the Slotnick Pavilion. Uh, I couldn't ask for any more. This is exactly what I thought a decayed charcoal drawing might look like in someone's forgotten, waterlogged in the basement sheaf of drawings of buildings that were never made and never saw the light of day. Even the designs didn't. Some little quick few things, and then yeah, I'm doing all right. A quick few things here. You'll notice, like in these areas here, those are silver failures. It's clumping silver that's no longer rendering in any kind of like smooth gradation. It's just clumped and failed. And it's also part of the real delight of working not only with the development, but the particular developer, but with papers that are really quite old and out of date. The other main key ingredient is you need to work with bromide papers because it's the bromide salt in the paper that has a reaction to the lith chemistry. There's two basic types. One has a formaldehyde base that's made by Arista, and then the other I use is by Mersch. It's a different formula without the harsh formaldehyde. They both do very different things, similar but very different depending on the papers they're in. This is an alternative, so that just give you an idea of how widely different the same developer can be one paper style to another paper style. So this is your same negative, same chemistry, but a completely different expression in the paper again. Yeah, well, there's no better or worse. They're all they're unique objects. Another drawing that I found, and I thought I'm right where I want to be. We can go back to this is Jolly Rock again, so I'm in this sort of family of rendering with charcoal, like building up charcoal, wiping it away, getting a highlight, just with a little like kneaded eraser, this kind of thing. Um, and I haven't discussed this, but my background is in painting. I got my MFA in painting, so drawing and painting are near and dear to my heart. It doesn't surprise me that these things tickle me to this day, and I take a lot of pleasure in the fact of getting there, I guess, on this journey with the photographic medium and the analog medium. So before I show you kind of a whole suite of images and where I'm at, one more thing I wanted to talk about, which is the integrity of the object. And that is to say that when I build them or design these things, how do we put it? I want them to not have any loose edges. In other words, squares that stick out at the back. Like, so in other words, I want you to be able to walk around this entire object, even though I only photograph one particular angle lit a certain kind of way. For me, it's important that this whole object come together in a complete way, like a Lego, I guess, or something like that. That there's nothing to miss. There's no holes on the backside. There's no sort of like weird finish in the corner. All the parts fit together completely and tip in exactly right. And in the end, will com every single brick is used and not one less or one more. And I've been able to build these things with problems all over on the backside, but it's never satisfying until it's a sort of a complete thing. I'd like to see it on a platform going around in a circle and know that it could be photographed from all sides, just like the real piece of architecture would be. Um, so this is like Marcel Breuer's, the Whitney. That's the base for this one. It says my little finger is there because gravitationally it wants to fall forward. And I want to know what Breuer did to keep that sort of the flying parts of the Whitney from not doing the same thing. So it's about steel, obviously, and anchoring and concrete. And that was the piece on the very beginning tile. This is what I ended up making of the Breuer. Um, Okay, so let's move along. Just I'll rapidly go through the end here and we'll take some questions. This is just the camera in action, just showing you more of the lighting, more of the circumstance in the studio. A huge fall of the bellows and an angled tilt. Um, and this is me photographing a thing called the Stambies Wohn Complex. Slightly different design in the end, but I wanted to include this to show you the barn doors. And those doors you can see the shadow created down the middle here. And because of the angle, it looks like a cloud passing over or creating background shadow. The mood can really be moved around quite a bit with barn door control and other controls like that. So not only is it the right angle, the right model, the right height, all that stuff, it's about where you lay the lights in and how much you use of them. Any other geeks in the crowd can raise their hand. This is this is a incident strobe, a strobe meter. So, I hold the strobe right in front of the object and we pop the flash and we get a reading. Which f-stop to use basically at the ISO that I'm using. So all my films ISO 100. And if you really want to geek out, I guess I'm shooting usually around f22, f32, and near full power on an 800 watt head. So that's fun. Um, okay, and then even though this was the original model, just three simple pieces. I might come back to this. I liked it with just like slight little fall down there, that little break. And again, you want to walk around this object, you can all the way around in a circle, and It's compact and complete on all angles. One more for fun, building one of my favorites. This is the Korpi nuclear facility. You may know it in Helsinki. Came together. I just like the little bits of transparency. I'm starting to see some of that more in the work as I keep working. Holes, openings, passages, and then even materiality transparency, which you'll see in one photo. Uh, Comes together. I start to think about angles. I throw it onto the table. I'm working always with like a white seamless. You probably saw that in the photographs. And then principally I take a little loose lamp, like just like a hot lamp, and I roll it around the object, front, back, sideways, down, low, high, until I feel the personality of the building really suggests itself and come and expresses. This is what it looked like in back in the blue digital form, and this is where it landed in the hand-drawn charcoal lithe process. To me, there's no choice. It's night and day, and exactly where I want to be. Some lovely things that keep happening are like little highlight lines because no building material is perfect, and this is the same thing that happens in real buildings. Not everything fits exactly right, so you get these like little bit of reveals or insets or detents, inaccuracies, all that, and I think it's part of the process as well. And I'll just go through a wave of where I'm at currently with this, and we can take some questions. Here we're back to the World Nations building. A couple of the prints from that one. One I really love. This is called the Cathédrale de les Rois, French for the Cathedral of the Kings. I just printed this one about a week ago, and I'm really thrilled about it. Um, there's our dataless habitat based on that Montreal structure. Fourth National Bank. Um, so much going on in this. I couldn't make this drawing if I wanted. I couldn't. There are things that occur that I cannot explain, and I'm just the beneficiary of it. Um, that's the Kunstinstitut again in Bonn, Germany. And this one I include the negative because it's the first time I lit from such a low angle with such a bright light that the light went through the plastic of the red plastic, creating different values. And you'll see in the print, I get transparency, translucency going on now. So that's a new addition that I'm starting to play with as I keep going through the process. Um, I thought this if I can get it all the way back to the Bauhaus, kind of like buildings that look like the thing that's going on inside them. So this is like supposed to be a nanofiber factory. And it made me think that it looks like something very serious and high powered and energetic is occurring within this building. That was the other idea about getting some transparency there, translucency. This is the Mercantile in Amsterdam. I think it's the Katzenjammer Mercantile in Amsterdam. Um, Wonderful things going on, with reflection, details, surface texture, chipped edges that look like stone. Um, Against the Takashi Tower in Osaka with that failed silver. You don't know when it's going to show up, and when it does, it's great. You just don't know. Um, this is what I call a failed print, but this is common with lith. Certain papers, certain temperatures, if it's late or early in the development, all kinds of things can happen. This was a very strange reaction, but not uncommon, I should say. It's sort of called the popcorn effect that can happen with some paper. And back to Frank Lloyd Wright, Usonian House. I call it Usomian because of Soma. Usomian House. And finally, this is where I'm at today. I haven't photographed this one, but this is Louis Kahn, another huge fan. I'm a fan of Louis Kahn. Um, this is the Exeter Library. So shout out to my buddy Chung if he's out there. Exeter Library. I remembered it. I'd never been on campus, but I remember that structure. I remember looking and studying it. And then so I built this just recently. So this is ready to be photographed, not yet photographed. Just that the beauty of those like vacant spaces and the emptiness up here. Yeah, made me think of this. So that's it, Dale. I think I hit 45 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever. Um, and should I do I leave the pictures up or I can turn them off too? Yeah.
I mean, if anyone has any questions that pertain to
Yeah.
a specific image, you can leave them up for a
Okay.
minute and see
Great.
if that's the case, and we can go back to whatever image it is that people are asking about.
Cool.
But if people have more general questions,
Great.
you can shut it down and you could just answer. But that's an invitation for everyone that if you do have questions, put them into the chat. Um, there's also a raise hand function. So if you can find that and click on it, I'll see that come through and I can allow you to turn on your mic. So if you want to ask a question with your voice instead of with your typing fingers, um, you could do that raise hand function as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so much thought and very specific, like technological, but also conceptual stuff that's going into all of these images. Like it was really interesting to hear you talking about like your thought process and where you had a visual goal and the steps that it took you to kind of realize that goal like visually with the photographic medium. Like what did
Yeah,
it
it's
take to actually get you to that point?
fumbling in the forest and failing miserably, yeah, until you find it.
I don't know about that failing part.
It's funny. One thing I forgot in the lecture, and I think is kind of important, is which is this is one of the negatives, is that I work so hard, right, in the photographic process of getting the negative exactly what I want, sharp, accurate, all of that very deliberate,
Mm.
right? Deliberate process and knowledge and everything it takes to do, which is a total blast and fun. But then I feed it into this lith process. So it's it's like a budding two completely different things, like ultimate accuracy to like here, ultimate chaos. I don't know. I couldn't reproduce a single one of these prints. They're all utterly unique objects. The next 20 minutes will be a completely different experience with a new piece of paper. Yeah.
There's some questions coming in, but I just wanted to comment like what you're saying that technical approach that you take to making the negative and the lighting and like all of that being very specific allows go back to the actual print of this one.
Yeah.
When you ran through this before, it's like that illuminated, like the illumination on the segments where the light was coming through is like that glow is amazing. But then I was looking at those four squares like in the front
hmm
right hand section. And if that hadn't been lit in a very particular way, like that could potentially have been blown out. But you're
Right.
getting detail in that area because of the way you're approaching it technically. And it allows for, yeah, that like the actual light coming through that one square that's causing the highlight running down.
Right.
Like everything is purposeful. You're not allowing any light to get away from you. You know, like it, because this would be a very different
Indeed.
image with if it was someone
Yeah.
who wasn't so particular about how they approach the lighting.
Yeah, indeed. It's like the light movements are sometimes quarter inch, half inch,
Mm.
forward, back, or a little left or right to do what you're just talking about. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like
Thanks, Dale.
yeah, I mean, even though you're almost like degrading the image by the printing process that you're using, like your technical prowess in lighting is like rendering a very specifically detailed image.
Thanks. Do you want to take a guess who my first strobe lighting professor was?
Who was your first strobe lighting professor?
Dale Rio.
Wait, oh, what? Oh, shit.
Yeah, over at Photo Arts.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Oh,
So
I'm
thank
just
you.
proud.
Yeah, the lessons are good. The lessons are
No,
good.
seriously. Wow. Okay. That's impressive. You took that and did this?
A little practice in between, but yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Oh,
Pretty
that's
much.
awesome. Yeah. Anyway, like, right, lighting is everything. Um, Jumping off of that, um, Eddie is asking in the chat what size prints you're making.
Yeah, great question. So these are all 1114. The ones I'm doing with lift, the process is 1114. I've done a lot of tests, paper tests at 8 by 10. 1114 just feels right. It feels like a little bit bigger, like almost like it could have been a drawing. It's large enough. But Eddie, I'm also in the process of I'm selling some of these at larger scale by scanning the print, which I'll call basically like the original, let's call it, scanning the print super accurately and then making a digital ink print at 20 by 28. So
Oh.
I've just started experiment with how that feels, to get up that large. But in terms of my direct communication with the print and the negative and the development, that's all 1114, and that's what the originals will be.
Where are you sourcing your lith paper?
It is an
Like,
impossibility because none of this is made anymore.
right. So
So
are people just
eBay, I found a pack of 50 on eBay. Same buddy of mine, Scott, was able to like get on a large format forum and knew some folks that might just have some hidden because they never pulled it. This particular paper I use is like it fogs after like 3 or 4 years, and the last time it was made was 15 years ago. So it comes kind of ready to perform in this way if you can find it. It's difficult, but yeah, it's out there. And at Fleischer, people bring in kind of out of date paper all the time. So a lot of the experimentation has come from donations,
Mm.
especially the bromide spectrum. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There are a couple other questions in the chat. Terrence is asking, have you thought of or tried using other shapes, cylinders, tubes, etc.?
Yep. Maybe that's second wave of the project. I have not even got close to exhausting the Soma cube yet.
Mm.
So I'm experimenting more radically with angles. This one I pulled up just because it's like a little bit more below, and there's like a foreground hill. So it landscape a little bit to a degree, very minimal, but that's starting to be added to it. But yeah, there's actually a set, I forget the name of it's for architects and engineers. It's many pieces, but that there's an appeal there to get like a set of actual like steel connectors and like steel beams, like an erector set kind of, but like even more minimal than that. So yeah, but I'm open to it, but this is inexhaustible at the moment for me, just as it exists. Yeah,
Yeah, I think what you mentioned too about this one, like you're playing with the angles. You had the one that was like a very downward
extreme.
angle.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then this one has, like you said, the introduction of like a landscape. So it's almost like this is taking the project in a different direction. You're providing
Yeah,
some kind of like context, like a situational context for where the building is.
yeah, and there's the other one that does the same here. It's like a longer shadow painted across a field. So I'm starting to for a little bit of balance, I guess, in the project to not just be right up front, and in the middle of the photo.
Yeah, it can also like introduce narrative,
Mhm.
like the viewers start thinking about where in space or where in the landscape like these buildings could potentially exist.
Right, right.
Um, Andreas says, It is interesting how you are beginning to invite a certain element of chance into your work. I remember your earlier work having a great deal of control over the process. I'm very curious about this transformation. It's really beautiful to see this work.
Yeah, I think Andreas, it's called maturity. Maybe. No, well, I mean, there's always, I think in any a painter, art, especially a painter, an artist, you crave surprise. You know, you crave accident. You can't make it happen. You can't make something look accidental or haphazard. It's not an it can't have a you can't have a specific conscious thought to make something look accidental. So this participatory aspect of this work kind of brings me closer to the painter or the drawer or the sketcher that's always been in me. So maybe that in part is an answer that I'm kind of nourishing, that not necessarily a lost thing. I still draw, but finding some of that finding nourishment in the accident via the photographic that is like readily available in the drawing. Maybe that's a part that's as good as I can do right now. I think that's part of it though for me. Yeah.
Breck says, Rick, fascinating, motivating historical premise. Will not pretend I can grok all these technical steps. Startling results. Unique, unreproducible prints. What's not to like? But a question. The translucent blocks, which look like factory windows, the translucency arises from the lighting angle slash lighting intensity and the color of the blocks? Question mark.
Okay, yeah. So they are plastic after all. And in earlier shots of this one is the red plastic. It's the same one. I mainly use this one. I use the wood one sometimes. Obviously, you won't get translucency through solid wood, but this is the red one, and it's the exact low angle across the deck, basically across the deck of the tabletop from behind, the lit from behind, and it just went right through. It went right through it. It lit up the back in an unpredictable way also. So in a weird way on the front side now, when I made this image, I don't think I anticipated that. And I think partly had to do with a little bit of the filter that I used. But it's just light going right through thin-walled plastic. And it carried through farther on some blocks and not on others. And if you have a theory on why those three in the front, especially these guys, because why didn't that happen? Why doesn't that happen all the way across, right? Why those three areas does it come through? So a little bit of that voodoo abstractions happening on the creation of the negative too. So, but yeah, it's just basic translucency. It's going right through the plastic. Yeah, from behind. I like to use I like to use the word I like the use of the word grok. Thank you for that.
Awesome. All right. Does anybody else have questions? Now's your chance.
Okay.
Um, Also, just a reminder for anyone who's in or near Philly or will be passing through that Rick is teaching two classes coming up at Halide, and one is the three-part intermediate black and white printing that starts at the end of this month that you could take one, two, or all three of. And then he also has an intro to black and white printing. I can't remember when that was, maybe February, March, one of those.
The intro I think is in March. We're doing that one, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, if anybody was inspired by what Rick is doing, and if you want to learn how to print, be taught by Rick, sign up for one of his workshops.
Great. Great.
All
Thanks
right.
everybody for coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And thanks, Rick, of course, for everything. And last chance for questions.
Mhm. I said hello in the chat, so thanks a lot, everybody.
Yeah, we have a lot of thanks coming through.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. All right.
All right, cool. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rick. And we hope to see you at Halide or at one of these talks in the future.
Okay. Thanks, Dale.
All
Appreciate it.
right. Of
Yeah.
course. All right. Good night.